On this episode of the Thoughtful Banter podcast, we have with us our guest Mustafa, who's a personal development coach. We talk about self-improvement, common struggles his clients face, and more. Please give this episode a 5-star rating on whichever platform you're listening to it on. Enjoy.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Thoughtful Banter podcast, episode 39. Before we begin this episode, which has a feature for the Mustafa coaches, we got to shout out the patrons. Hussein, do you want to shout the patrons out? Should I do a voice? Or
No, we gotta we gotta have you do the voice.
Okay, what voice am I doing?
So we already did.
What
you
gotta do?
Obama?
My Obama might be pretty bad. Let's see. My fellow patrons. The Ronin, Akira Overdrive, Zero Bay, Reza B, Dead Man, Asad Zaidi. That's all I got for Obama. It's not that good. What up?
Who else? That's like iconic voice.
Who else has an iconic voice? I'm not that gifted, bro. I don't know. Who else? I might just revert back to Conor McGregor.
Just do it kind of.
Give me another for Ali Rizvi Dinky, Ahmad San, Latifah Barnett, Ali Nifrush, TJ Mdin, and Justin Baby, Muhammad Safavi, and Jordan. Thank you guys for being patrons. Enjoy this episode.
Hope you guys enjoyed that.
So, what's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 39 of the Thoughtful Banter podcast. I'm your host, Matthew, with my co-host,
Hussein.
Yes, sir. And right now, right now we have a very special guest with us, Mustafa. Mustafa is a life coach and a game developer. And to me, most importantly, he is actually someone who's been supporting the podcast for since day one. Yeah. Basically. We've actually come to learn who he is just by reading consistent comments. I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, oh, he's actually he's doing cool stuff, So Mustafa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I prefer personal development coach over life coach because
Gotcha.
Usually when you hear someone's a life coach, it sounds like they're a grifter or a scam artist. no one has their life together.
Yeah.
Facts. That's facts. Yeah, we have a personal development coach, Mustafa, with us. And Mustafa, you have a very impressive resume. I've been looking through it, your bio, you've worked at Treyarch, which is, responsible for honestly the best Call of Duty games that have ever existed, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, and other game development companies. I'm also seeing you're doing Muay Thai. Is that correct?
Yeah, I love Muay Thai.
How long have you been doing that?
About 2 years now, pretty close to 2 years.
Oh, so you're probably a killer then.
Yeah.
If I started back in my 20s, I'd probably be a killer. But at this age, I still feel like I have 2 left feet.
No, you're young.
You're a warrior in the garden. MashaAllah. Right? That's MashaAllah. I did Muay Thai for 3 months and I was like, I don't know. We were running and it's hard on the body. So anyone who's able to do it for longer than I was able to do it, I have to give them my respect. I'm curious to know. I see you're doing the coaching, you're doing the game development, and you're doing both at the same time. How are you able to manage your time doing these things and also having a family, having just general life things to handle?
Through the power of Allah. Seriously though, it's a lot of it comes down to just it is belief in Allah, just believing that Allah is guiding me to the right place, and that as long as I work hard and try to stay focused, then I'm going to achieve things. But other than that, it's just trying to stay organized, using some organizers. I use ClickUp. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's kind of
we
Trello.
use ClickUp at work. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I worked in a corporation, we used Jira, which I really like Jira. I think people hate Jira, but not because it's good. They hate it because they gotta deal with people and everything. Yeah. But I thought it was a good product, but it costs money, so I use ClickUp since it's free.
Mm-hmm. Do you use Notion by any chance? Have you heard of Notion? What are your thoughts?
I've heard of Notion, and I opened it up. I opened an account, and I said to myself, after I'm done with this project, I will switch to Notion, because right now I already have everything set up with my current project, my game I'm working on. It's already set up with ClickUp, and if I spend like a good week learning Notion and transferring over, I feel like I'll be taking several steps backwards. So
I did have a question. I guess it's more related to your personal development stuff,
yes,
because that's something that, Matthew and I have talked about on the podcast a lot. We've probably talked about it in multiple episodes. And specifically, you mentioned that you don't want to be called a life coach. You want to be called a personal development coach, because you talk about like how there are a lot of grifters, how a lot of people who just want your money, basically. So I guess my question is, we're very focused on like approach here at Thoughtful Banter. And so my question is like, how do you differentiate yourself from those grifters and from those people who are kind of just after people's dollars?
Okay, yes. I understand the question. So basically how I differentiate myself is, while I do cover multiple topics on my social media, I cover, goal setting, productivity, health, fitness. I cover all sorts of different topics, because when it comes to personal development, you're basically trying to develop in multiple areas in your life. But as far as my service that I do one-on-one coaching with, it is one specific thing. I don't tell people how to live their life. I don't tell them, how to get rich. I don't tell them how to do all these different things. I don't tell them how to run their business. What I do is I specifically, set up one-on-one time to come up with an action plan that spans 12 weeks, so that my clients can work towards completing 4 goals within these 12 weeks. So it is a system that has proven to work with people. It's very simple. It's just basically identifying what you want to accomplish, and then identifying a daily tactic that you want to do every single day for each of these goals. And that's the specific thing that I offer in my service. I don't tell you how to lose weight. I don't tell you, how to do all these things, because that's really comes down to you. And also, it's more teaching a man to fish rather than giving him a fish. We all know that saying. So it's like, once I teach a person how do you set up these goals, then you're able to figure out and do research for everything that you want to do in your life. You're able to do some research and then break it down to, okay, here's what I want to accomplish. Here's what I want to accomplish within these 12 weeks. And what am I going to do? And what are the metrics I'm going to use to measure success?
So if I understand correctly, it's kind of like you're teaching people how to build the frameworks to implement processes to get to the goals they want, rather than trying to make it goal-oriented or outcome-oriented and saying, I can guarantee that after you take this course, you're going to make $100,000 or something like that.
I don't promise any outcome. In fact, one thing within this process is that we have to look at our current progress, because like I said, it's 12 weeks long, and we set checkpoints, like a 30-day checkpoint and a 60-day checkpoint, and you can actually like check anytime you want, but we want to see, are we on track? 30 days in, 4 weeks in, are we on track? 8 weeks in, are we on track? And if we're not on track, like especially 8 weeks, 10 weeks, if you're not on track, what can we adjust to make sure that we get some sort of a success? Whether it is, bring the bar down a little bit, or work a little bit harder. It depends on what the goal is and how you're doing, but you gotta learn how to evaluate what you have to adjust and then see if you could still get to the, some sort of a goal or some sort of success.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, with all of your experience, are there really common problems that you run into with every single client where it's just like, damn, like all these guys are struggling with the exact same thing? Like, what's something that you've noticed consistently comes up as a hurdle for a lot of the guys that you're helping out?
Yeah. So one problem I've noticed that's very common is that when this process is explained to people, so we work on SMART goals. SMART stands for those who aren't familiar with SMART goals, that's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And before we even get to the goals, we work on a vision statement. The vision statement is how I want to see myself in the future. I don't give myself a time, like it could be any time, like 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future, next month. How do I see myself in the future? And I write the vision statement in present tense, like I am a fit man who has the respect of his family. Like I don't say I want to be or I will be. I say it like as if it's right now. That way, when I read the vision statement, it motivates me because I see myself there. But other than motivation, the vision statement is also a destination, because like you don't just get into a car and start driving and then 30 minutes later you decide, oh, I wanted to go to the grocery store that was 20 minutes back. You have to know where you're going before you even start driving. So that's what the vision statement's for. It's lead you towards where you want to go. But the problem that that I'll see a lot of people come across is that when we set up these SMART goals to lead towards the vision, they start with, rather than starting with the objective, the goal, they start with the tactic. For example, if I want to learn about something, I say, okay, I'm going to read 3 books on this subject for 3 months. And then, I write down the SMART goal format, and then I decide what's the tactic that I'm going to do every day to achieve this. Basically the way how I figured out the tactic is I take those 3 books, see how many pages there are in all 3 of those books, divided by how many days there are in 12 weeks. And then I come up with, the number of pages I read every day. So let's just say 6 pages a day. So that's the daily tactic. But some people do that the other way around. They say, okay, I want to read 6 pages a day. Why? Why do you want to read 6 pages a day? What's the point of you reading 6 pages a day? The thought process is backwards. So the thought process should start with, what do you want to achieve? Why do you want to achieve it? Make sure it's relevant, and then you figure out what you're going to do every day to get there. Because if you're starting with what you want to do every day, then you're just doing things for the sake of doing things. We want to make sure that you do something so that it gets you to where you want to be. That way you're not wasting your time. And that way you're doing something that's relevant.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense. That's such an intelligent way to think about things. I remember I didn't read because I don't read often. I just have.
You should read.
I know I should read. Not the first time, but I listen to audiobooks whenever like there's something I really want to understand, and I'm like, I don't get the attention to read it. And I remember I was listening to Atomic Habits by James Clear, which I'm sure you're familiar with. I think
yes.
I think I watched a reel of you mentioning some advice in it. And one thing James Clear talks about is how the identity is always the source of all of our actions, right? So it seems like you're training your clients to always first start out with what they want their identity to be, and
Yeah.
not say, but not even say, oh, I want to. It's I am. Like when you said,
Yes.
I am a fit man, my family respects me, I am wealthy, etc. That's an identity. That's not a desire anymore. That's I am this thing. You know, it's. I just want to commend you for that intelligent way of I guess aiding your clients. Mashallah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you tell yourself I am fat, then you've set up a roadblock that you're not going to be able to get out of that situation. Now, if on the other hand, if you say, right now I am currently overweight, then that's something that you have at the moment rather than I am this.
I'm currently, because that, and it's also right. I am this is an identity statement, right? It's like I am this. It's like, are you just that forever? But I am currently overweight. It's more factual, right? Like overweight.
Yes.
That's still addressing the facts of maybe someone being obese, but saying I am fat. Fat is like just a social term. It's like a way to describe overweight as disgust. Like you're fat versus you're overweight, or like I am obese. So wow, mashallah. Subhanallah.
Yeah, I mean, I think America has like a problem in general with making everything a part of their identity, and some of the problems with that is things like this. So when you want to change, it actually becomes more difficult too because you're already envisioning that thing as your being, right? So I'm fat, like in my being, I am fat, and so it actually might make it harder for me to overcome that because I actually think of myself that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just move like another question as in regards to your clients. Me and Matty, we've talked about like the problem with the modern male, like problems that we've seen people in our generation before us and after us kind of deal with and struggle with. Are there any like, so outside of having that backwards thinking as far as goals are concerned, are there any specific issues that you see with the guys that you work with, the clients that you work with, that are kind of like repetitive, or is every day, or is every client like, I mean, every client is going to be different in some way, even in that specific issue, but are those issues, do you see kind of like a pattern in them?
Pattern. It seems like so far each person I've worked with one-on-one had something different going on. I don't think I really noticed some patterns yet. No.
Okay.
No. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if I had like a larger pool of people, then probably I could come up with a pattern. But right now,
yeah. No, that's interesting too. I think that also might be because I think it's like and this is interesting. I think self-help now is it appears to be so attainable because there's so much free information online. There's probably not that many people in terms of like, there's a lot of people willing to watch videos, but there's way less people willing to pay for services to actually fix their life. And I think that probably shows up for your clients being different because it shows there's just the people who are actually willing to even put in the work to pay someone and then dedicate themselves to a 12-week plan. The people who are willing to do that are already, I think, impressive and therefore like a little bit different in that sense, right? Do you ever run into the situation where you make a plan with a client and then they just don't stick to it at all, and like you see like their ego get in the way of their progress?
Yeah, I have worked with a couple of clients, maybe three. Yeah, three. One of them just went AWOL. He disappeared from the men's group. Another client, he had a lot of stuff going on. Like he owns his own gym, has own business going on. So he's actually has his own clients too. But I'm like harassing him regularly, annoying him, telling him, hey, how's your progress? What's going on? And then a third client, like, went through depression and just kind of just stopped participating. And I'm like, hey, if you need one-on-one time, let me know. Let's talk. If you need me to, give you any reminders to stay on track, or if you want me to take a look at anything, let me know. And everyone seems to like have sometimes people just get overwhelmed, whether it's depression or their work schedule, or just want to disappear and don't want to commit.
Yeah. I also and this just my personal opinion and experience, it seems like our egos get in the way of us getting help a lot of times. So sometimes someone might recognize that there's a problem, but like there's this ego because you Mustafa, you're holding me accountable, and I have to then come to you and be like, well, I messed up, or what do I do, Mustafa? And it's like people don't even realize a lot of times like their issue, even though that person might not walk around in life as like an egotistical human, they think they're not egotistical only because they don't have the ability to be egotistical. Like you're not 6'6", big, strong guy, 280 pounds with a six-pack walking around. You think you're humble because you're not acting like that aggressive guy. But it's like, if you had that capability to act aggressive, you would, so, but your ego shows up because your ego shows up in your relationship that you can't even have this accountability coach. You just want to do only what you want to do. I think that's like,
yeah. Not only do people like let their ego get in their way when they start failing with the progress, but also like from the beginning of the process, when we're working on the action plan, and some people when they get feedback, they're like, yo, this is great. This is great feedback. This makes sense as to why I need to word it this way, why I need to have this information in here. But other people like, but I like it like this. I think this means a lot to me. I mean, I'll give one quick example of so when I was learning this whole process, this whole system within the first men's group I was in, basically we're put into these small groups of 5 where we had to look at each other's action plans and vision statements and give feedback. Actually, it was just a vision statement that we're looking at. We weren't going into the action plan yet, but we're just giving feedback to each other so that we can learn the whole process. And one person, his vision statement was something along the lines of, I wake up in the morning out of my expensive bed, and I go and I see my beautiful wife on the bed, and I go to the window and see the beautiful beach, and I come down my expensive house, and I take out my phone, and I see the $100,000 I just made from my investments the last night, and I see my beautiful car and this and that, and it's like, and we told them, we call them out on that. It's like, are these your values? Because the vision statement is supposed to be like where you want to be as a man in the future, and it should be built around your values. Like in reality, if your big expensive house catches on fire, or Allah decides you don't want anymore, and then an earthquake splits right then and there, and where are you at as a man?
Are you gone?
Yeah. Does your entire self-development revolve around your finances and in your material wants? So it's like you got to build it around like who you are in your core. But the guy kept on. He wanted to stick to his guns. He was like, yeah, but this motivates me. This is important to me. This motivates me to make a lot of money. It's like, but he didn't want to listen to the feedback.
That's you bring up an interesting concept, in Islam we have the concept of someone being zahid or having zuhud, and having that detachment from like the worldly things. And it's not necessarily like a lot of people kind of misconstrue it. It's not necessarily that you don't have those things. It's not that you don't have those things. It's that even when you have them, you have no attachment to them because your values are somewhere else, right? So even if you have the big house, the fancy car, the expensive bed, the expensive everything.
Yeah.
If tomorrow you woke up and that was gone, you'd still be a servant of God. You know?
there's actually a great story, and I'll probably say it poorly, but the story goes something like there's a man in a village, and he was dedicating many years to excel in his knowledge and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Until he reached the point where he was the most knowledgeable man in his village. And his teacher is like, I can't teach you anything else. You have to go to my teacher. And he tells the man where to find his teacher. And he gets to the location that was given to him, and he's like, I must be at the wrong spot. I'm at a fortress right now. This man has a huge home, and he's got gardens, and a servant opens the door, right? And he's like baffled. And the only thing this man owns, who's seeking knowledge, he owns like a wooden stick, and he has like the clothes on his back. And the teacher comes out, and he tells him like, hey, your student told me to come to you, etc. Please teach me. And the teacher's like, okay, I'll be back in 1 second. Let's go for a walk. So they start journeying, into the wilderness with each other. And after, let's say a couple of miles, the man who was seeking knowledge realizes he forgot his staff. He forgot his cane back at the man's house. And he's like, stop. Like, I can't continue any further. Like, we need to go back and get my stick. And he was like, are you kidding me? He's like, what? He says, I left my house and everything for this journey, and I own more than you, and I have no attachment. You only own the stick, and you have more attachment to the stick than I do to my home. So yeah, I just think like it's funny, right? Like our quantity of our material possessions isn't necessarily showing of how much we are attached to the dunya itself, which is really tricky. It's really tricky to think about that, because we always, at least in my mind, like maybe it's a Western thing, like because I think for some reason in the West we look at monks as like the pinnacle, and not just like Christian monks, like monks and like in other nations who are like have quit all worldly possessions or whatnot, only own like the clothes on the back. We see that as just like what being spiritual looks like,
Yeah. I think there needs to be some sort of a balance between like being completely detached and being completely material driven. I mean, like, basically, as far as it comes to giving sadaqah, of course, we need to give as much as we can. It should at the very least sting a little bit. Like it should at the very least make you question, oh, is this too much? And if you start questioning that, then yeah, give that much. But at the same time, like if you start giving away like all your money because you have zero detachment and you're poor, then you're not going to do any help with the poor when you're yourself are also poor. So there needs to be like at least a little bit of balance between the two.
And I would like to just clarify, when someone like the ideal of someone to have that kind of detachment is not that they're just detached for the sake of being detached. They're detached for the sake of God. So if you need to do specific things like if you need to like, for example, it is your responsibility to provide for your family. Therefore, you need a job. And if you happen to have a high paying job, that's fine. It's just that once, like, that's what you're supposed to do. It's not saying like, don't get a job. You're not going to be like, I'm not attached to the dunya. I'm not going to get a job. I don't want this money. No, you have a responsibility. Do what you have to do as a servant to God. It's just that, the job title, for example, doesn't define who I am as a servant of God.
Yeah.
So if I were to lose my job, I'm not destitute. I still find another job because I still have that responsibility. But I'm not like so attached to this title, this job title, or this money that I'm making that I stop practicing altogether.
I think also even an interesting point on top of that is some jobs, when you have those jobs, you have to have, like, if you're a lawyer, you have to have a nice suit. If you're like at a high-end law firm, you can't come in with like a $400 suit. If all your colleagues are wearing $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 suits, they keep going up and up. You have to at least be like at the low minimum standard of them. And you can't come in driving like a 2002 used Volkswagen either.
Like, oh, I'm detached from the dunya.
Like, no, you are then going to get fired, and then your family is not going to. 1 second, running out of time? Are we out of time?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Oh, we have 10 more minutes. Yeah, you are going to get fired for that, and that's going to take you away from your family. what is it? There's a hadith that with a man that's always in the masjid, and Rasulullah comes and he sees him there for all 5 prayers before Rasulullah gets there. Rasulullah's like, has this man been here all day? And he's like, yes. And he's like, who's feeding his family if he's not working? His brother's feeding his family. And then what does he say? He says, tell him that your brother's work is accepted more by Allah than your prayers. Right.
Yeah, I've heard a similar hadith to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, and back to you, Mustafa, I guess, like, what is something that you as a coach, you want to do for your clients that I guess is, how should I phrase? Like, what is the necessity of having a Muslim? Do you feel like there's a necessity for having like a Muslim coach for men to address problems that only Muslim men are going through?
Yeah, I think having a Muslim coach is definitely beneficial, because then the coach understands your core values and can help keep you directed towards those core values and keep you towards doing halal things rather than like doing questionable things. I mean, like, for example, like crypto's questionable. I follow the rulings of Sayyid Sistani, and he didn't put a fatwa on it. From last I heard, he didn't put a fatwa on it, but he did give a recommendation to stay away from crypto. And so it's like when you're being told by like a non-Muslim person, they'll be like, yeah, do this and do that to make money. Just trying to give crypto as one quick example. But I mean, personally, I like to try to seek mentors or seek people who at the very least believe in God. Like for example, I through my previous work benefits, I had access to a therapist. So I was like, might as well do a therapist. And there was like a vetting process, and they're like, any type, like, is there anything that you're looking for, like any type of therapist? And I was like, well, I want a man for one thing, and also if possible, they believe in God, whether Christian, Jew, Muslim. That way there's like at least a connection with my values.
Absolutely, right. I mean, it's like you see like these self-help coaches, right? These a lot of these guys, if they don't have a God, or like even they have God, but they're just not Muslim,
Yeah.
They'll say something crazy like, bro, if you haven't seen your family in a year, you're not working hard enough. Like something crazy like that. And it's like, as a Muslim, right? Family is part of our faith.
Yeah.
If you're doing, we believe like the people who have cut off all ties with their family, we have hadith saying these people are cursed 3 times in the Quran.
Yeah.
3 times in the Quran, the person who's cut off every tie with their family, but like that person might just be accidentally telling you advice to go to hell.
Yeah. There are definitely people who give you that advice to love the grind, work the grind. And I agree to an extent that we should work hard, work smart, work hard, be focused with our work. But even from a secular point of view, like if you don't look at it from like an Islamic point of view, if you're just working all the time and you're not stopping to relax and recharge, you're getting diminishing returns. You're wearing yourself out. You need to get yourself back to 100 so you can give 100. And sometimes that, for me at least, that means taking time out to go, take my family to the park, get some fresh air, and spend time with my family.
Back to Matthew's question, the importance of people being Muslim in the kind of roles that you occupy. And I just want to, there's a specific reason why Imam Sajjad and Sahifa Sajjadiyya, he gives the teacher so many rights over you. And it's not just because you're learning knowledge from them. It's because they're literally like imprinting a worldview onto you in the teaching of that knowledge, in the dissemination of that knowledge, in the dissemination of those life lessons, right? And so it becomes tantamount then. Like once you think about it like that, it's like it is very important then that the person who's teaching me has similar values to me. Because I could possibly hear the same information from two different people, but because of the values that one person holds, the values another person hold, I take away a different worldview after learning that thing, right? And so it's like it's super important, and we also have to like, be conscious that knowledge is not just knowledge. Knowledge is not just knowledge. If you are working with a person who is pious, who has similar values, Islamic values to you, you are going to have a completely different experience because that person is enlightened not with like the knowledge of, oh, I know that 1 + 1 = 2. It is the nur Allah that Allah has written on their hearts, the wisdom that they gain. And that's something I think that's something that sometimes we miss when we talk about ilm. We talk about it as like as far as the English conception of it, which is like, oh, facts, right? I have knowledge of something, I know a lot of things about it. But no, like knowledge is referred to consistently throughout that corpus. Is like, this is nur Allah, this is fahm, this is hikmah. Like, it's not just knowledge, it is that wisdom and that thing that only Allah can give you, only God can give you. And so I'm just like, to your point and to Matthew's question, like it becomes of utmost importance for you to be learning from a proper source.
I want to I want to jump in because we don't have too much time left, and I don't want to end the session without people knowing exactly the best way and keep your thought, but I want people to know exactly the best way for them to reach out to you, to check out your amazing content, and to get their act together. All these Muslim men in our comment section, get your act together with Mustafa, man. Mustafa, where can they find you?
All right, so I guess the best place where like everything is all there at one. If you go to my link tree, so that's linktr.ee and then /M Alhassani. That's my first initial last name, Malhashsani. Then you'll find everything, all my stuff there. Unfortunately, all my social media are different handles because
that's fine. We'll link
taken here. But so that's why I figured that the link tree is the best one. So linktr.ee/MALHASSANI.
And it'll be the first link in the description of this podcast, whether you're listening to right now on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube, etc. The first link will be Mustafa's Linktree. It was a pleasure having Mustafa on the podcast. Make sure to check out his Linktree, the first link down below, and sign up for his weekly blog where you will get a free video course.
Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. We will see you next week.